if you want to.
Okay. I want to interrupt your quiz. I bet Dan Campbell doesn't eat quiche. Look, man, I ain't eating no quiche. But Dan, they're made with ostrich eggs, high protein.
Nice we've had all year. You know, the area where we weren't great was red zone, rushing the ball. But overall, you know, we did a good job. The offensive line up front, Gibbs. You know, the tight ends helped us out. Receivers certainly blocking on the perimeter were good. Had 10 explosive, 9 passes, 1 run. Third down was good, 7 of 12. So that really got us to the point where we were able to score the points that we were. And defensively, you know, shut down that run game, which was going to be a point of emphasis. Got 2 takeaways, back-to-back series, which is huge. We turned those into 10 points. We were good in third down. Now we gave up a couple of that bled into fourth down. But, man, we were in good position a number of times. You know, had them backed up, long yardage situations. And so we just closed a couple of those out. We're going to be that much better for it. But all in all, you know, I thought the guys played hard. We talked about our identity. Man, it was all over the tape. You know, guys running, finishing on the football. We were disruptive. And we came away with a W. So really proud of those guys. Offensively, our game balls were St. Brown and J-Mo. You know, both of those guys had huge games. And really, it was probably J-Mo's best game he's had since he's been here. And I'm talking about from run blocking as well as the pass game, which everybody sees. So that was great. You know, I also thought, you know, the O-line up front, all of those guys, Laporta, talked about Gibbs, did a really good job. And then defensively, you know, Amik, golly, it was great. Him outside, we felt good about that move. And then, you know, moving Branch back to nickel just to give us kind of the best lineup on the back end. And I tell you what, Amik was just outstanding. You know, covered great all day, but also physical on the perimeter. You know, the number of tackles and tough plays he made really showed up. You know, he was a force for us, so that was good. And then, you know, look, TA gave up that 1 touchdown, but really he had a pretty good game. He really did. You know, he did some things that were pretty good. He challenged out there. You know, had the play in the red zone, knocked it down. Just that was good to see. And Ben Neiman, you know, did some really good things. Special teams. Pat O'Connor was a force on kickoff. I mean, he was. You know, the whole game, you know, we had a lot of those kickoffs and it was hard for them to block him. And he continued on the front side of those to really squeeze it, compact it down, make the plays. Special teams, I thought Zylstra, Vaki, and Craig Reynolds, you know, really did a good job for us there. So that's kind of it. Good win, you know, and now it's in 2 days here, for the most part, you know, getting prepared for San Francisco. Going to let the players have off for Christmas, and then we'll come back in the day after and get ready for these guys. So another tough matchup. We know what this was last year when we went out there and weren't able to win. So this will be good. We're looking
Maybe I should start dancing on this show. Welcome, everyone, to the Christmas edition
of the Main Event Football Show. It's I, Main Event Mike, in my Santa hat that I only wear once a year. And this is that day. Welcome to the program. It's Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Main Event Football Show coming off victory against the Chicago Bears. Going to be talking about Detroit Lions' victory over the Chicago Bears, a couple of topics inside the team. We're also going to take a look ahead to the San Francisco game next week, which is going to be on Monday Night Football. Welcome to the program. We are broadcasting live on Facebook into Lions Villain Squad. Be sure to follow the Villain Squad page. We are also broadcasting live on YouTube into @Villain Squad on YouTube. That's right. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. But you know what? We also have some friends in this business. We haven't burned every bridge. We also are broadcasting live on Roku TV in the Huddle Sports Network. Big thanks to Bill the Packer fan and Mike the Bear fan for letting us broadcast there. Also broadcasting into Detroit Lions News Podcast Facebook page. Joe Chapp, big friend of the show. Really appreciate you, Joe, for letting us broadcast it on your network as well. Welcome to the program, everyone. Put it in the comments. This is an interactive show, and for goodness sake, it's a once-a-week show. So we're going to have to look ahead. We're going to try to have to cover everything on a whole week span here, but welcome to joining me on the Christmas edition, and it's a Monday, Victory Monday here on the Main Event Football Show. Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 34-17. I know you've heard it all day long. Everybody talking about, oh, they did this and the old stumble-rooski. And then somebody has to say, it's not the stumble-rooski, it's the stumble-bum. Well, excuse me. Andy Reid never said stumble-bum. He said fumble-rooski, so we've turned it into stumble-rooski. I don't know. Which do you like better, stumble-bum? That's what Goff said it's called. So that's the actual name. But I think I like stumble-rooski better. The Detroit Lions doubled the score of the Chicago Bears, 34-17. Nice output by the offense, keeping their average over 31 points per game, which is a great clip for this offense, especially when you consider our defense banged up really bad, like beyond banged up. Let's just throw banged up out the window when we're talking about the Lions defense. More like decimated. You could field a whole number one a division-winning defense with just the guys we have on IR. That's how bad the Lions are. But I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. But it was an impressive win. They also kept the Bears under the 18 points a game that the Lions defense has been averaging. Lions defense ranked number 22. Lions defense ranked number 18 in the league by ESPN. That's overall defense. And we said at the beginning of the season, with this explosive offense, if the Lions can just field a defense that's in the top half, they could win potentially 13, 14 games, we said. And here we are with the 18th defense, and the Lions, for the first time in franchise history, 13 wins. Kudos to the Detroit Lions. Kudos to all of the people at the Lions facility, even the lady serving the lunch in the cafeteria, the guy that checks your ticket at the parking. Everybody's part of the culture, and especially those fans that you could hear on my TV here in Flint, Michigan. I could hear on my TV. I could hear you chanting Jared Goff in Soldier Field. It was a beautiful thing. One pride. Thank you to all the Lions fans for showing up and showing out. Every time they panned the camera, there was so much blue in that stadium. And the Lions fans are catching a lot of heat in the groups today. I'll let you know that. These other fan bases are getting sick of us beating our chests. They're not used to it. They're not used to week 16, and we're beating our chests over 13 wins. And they are firing back. They are acting like butthurt children. I'm sorry, but it's true. I could show you a million clips. Just go look at one of these trash talking groups. I mean, and they're getting personal. I personally am taking exception with you taking personal shots at the city of Detroit, calling it ghetto and all this. You know, whether it's true or not, that's one thing, but you don't come out and say it. Everybody can think it. You don't get, I don't fault you for thinking it. I fault you for coming out and saying it and showing what little character you have. Okay? Same with Rob Gronkowski and Micah Parsons and Deion Sanders and all these other ball players that have dissed Detroit in the past. We don't need you. Detroit versus everybody. And all of you bandwagon fans, which is what you're being called, you're more than welcome. We want you on here. Come on. This train is rolling for the next 3 to 5 years. And if you don't think that's true, you don't know football. You don't know what Brad Holmes is building here in Detroit. If you think that this is a flash in the pan, even if you lose in the first round of the playoffs, do not come with the take that this is the same old Lions or anything that happened before 2021 is even in play here, because you just make yourself look dumb. I'm sorry, but we're talking about real football here. Oh, the trash talking, that's fine. But leave the kids out of it. When you insult the city of Detroit, you insult all the people that live there. You're not insulting the sidewalks and the curbs or the buildings. You are insulting the people that live there. And some of them, like myself, we're proud to be from here. Very proud. So don't pay attention to them, because we all know nobody should tell you how to fan. Lions win 34-17 in Chicago. Jahmyr Gibbs, he had more touches. He had more carries last year against the Raiders. But this game was a 3-score lead by halftime. And Jahmyr really didn't have to do as much in the second half. They were able to lean on it. But you could tell that this was an intentional move by the Lions. In the first 33 plays the Lions ran, Jahmyr Gibbs' number was called on 20 of them. This was an intent. The Lions are very intentional about everything they do. And this was an intentional move to see what it's going to be like as a 3-down back. Sure they already knew, but getting him used to it. Because with Demo out for the next few games at the very least, he's going to need to shoulder the load like he did in Chicago. 154 total yards. He had 23 carries, 109 yards. Russell Wayne and I said on Thursday that Jahmyr Gibbs going to touch the ball 20 to 25 times. Carries, excuse me. He's going to carry the ball 20 to 25 times. And he carried the ball 23 times for 109 yards and a touchdown. 154 scrimmage yards, because he was in the passing game too. Like I said, 20 of the first 33 plays of the game went to Sonic. And then they started to coast. No need, smart coaching. I thought this was the best coached game Dan Campbell's ever done. Ever. In that first quarter, he kicked a field goal on 4th and 3 inside like the red zone. He was right outside the red zone, and he kicked a field goal. Good for you, Dan Campbell. Good for you. I thought his team played well. They were disciplined. They only had 7 penalties on the road. There were a couple of questionable calls like there always is, but I thought overall they coached well, especially the Stumble-Ruski fake play, the bomb over the top to J-Mo, just well-designed plays. And we did get a little bit of luck. Like all good teams need a little bit of luck. The Bears had a terrible day tackling. Let's face it. Yes, the Lions played pretty well, but the Bears had plenty of opportunities to make it a lot harder for us. I could point to at least 10 plays yesterday where the Bears missed a tackle as the only reason the play wasn't a loss. When you start playing better teams, as we get into the playoffs, that's not going to get it done. Dan Campbell knows that. That's why he's not going to rest at all. He said it today. He's not going to let his foot off the gas one bit, because there's still a lot to clean up. And he knows that with all the injuries, the only way this thing is going to work is if everything is clicking. You need all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, and the coaching as well has to be on point. Definitely, the injuries seem insurmountable. I get that. But Dan Campbell was so inspirational in his presser, right? Saying, hey, we know what we got to do. We know what we got to clean up, and they're taking it one game at a time. It sounds cliche, but that's what you got to do. And hey, in Dan we trust, right? So can Jahmyr Gibbs be an every down back? I think the answer is yes. But we did see in the game yesterday on the short yardage situation, Jahmyr Gibbs could not punch it in the end zone on a couple of consecutive tries, right up the gut behind Ragnow. The one I was stymied. I could not believe they wouldn't show the replay. They never showed the replay of his second attempt. From the angle, from the back behind angle, which is a terrible angle for the call. But from that angle, it looked like the ball crossed the plane, but they never, ever showed the replay. I thought yesterday's game was the production crew gets a total thumbs down. Showing the replay 8, 9 times of some meaningless play. But when there's real things we want to look at, they don't show it. Oh, there's a penalty. Well, maybe you got cameras everywhere. Maybe you could show us what the penalty is about. They tell us, but we don't get to see it. It was terrible. It was just terrible. I've been in the production TV game for a long time, and I can tell you it was bad. Very bad. They aren't going to win an Emmy for that. Jamison Williams, a career high, 143 yards. But he also gets a taunting penalty for 15 yards. The maturity. We're hoping to see that leap in the maturity. And we give him a pass, and then we give him a pass. We give him a pass, and here's another 15-yard penalty. And Dan Campbell let him have it, buddy. Dan Campbell let him have it, so why should we? Let's go into the comments and see who we got today. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show and in the comments today. Put your comments in. I want to hear what you think. Do you think I'm full of it? Let me hear it. I want to know. Good evening, Davey, in the chat. Our friend Jordan Mijo in the chat as well. Happy Victory Monday. Donkey Kong, the return of Donkey Kong. Glad to see you in the chat, my friend. Latifa on the show says good. All right, Latifa, I'm down with good. Henry Gray, he's a real villain. Good evening, Lions family and villains. Our good friend Chad. He's a documentary filmmaker, and he's a good friend of the show. Chad Datema, how are you, Chad? Hey, football family, wishing everyone a safe and blessed Christmas. Right back at you, Chad. Oh, our good friend Elise Memes in the house. She's the queen of memes. Go check out her page. Follow her page. You won't be disappointed. She helps me out all the time. Thank you, Elise, for your help this week. Donkey Kong, Super Bowl or bust. That's right. I don't care who we got coming in to play defense. This team, this offense is explosive enough. Super Bowl is not off the table. Anybody who says otherwise is not paying attention. So many Lions fans. Well, looks like the Super Bowl is off the table. Well, I just don't see how we can realistically overcome these injuries. Hey, Packers fans will be the first to tell you they won a Super Bowl with 14 guys on IR. Maybe not to the severity of what these Lions are going through, but it's not over. This is a resilient team, and their coach could fire up a corpse. If you don't get excited when Dan Campbell talks, you need to have your pulse checked. That's all I'm saying. Henry says, I caught Borowski in Ken and Ken show this morning and force-fed him his crow. Good for you, Henry. He knows better than come around here. He knows he's going to get it hard. Stumblerooski. That's right. What a play. The stumble bum. Ow! He must be reaching deep into the bag of tricks. What's next? We should come up with ideas. Remember that one time last year, Ben Johnson said someone came up to him and had drawn up a play for him, and they were going to try to work the play in because it was actually pretty good. Man, I would love to hear a follow-up story to that if that play ever came to fruition, and know who that person was, some random fan that said, hey, Ben, check out this play. I just drew this on a napkin. But the Stumble-Rooski? The Stumble Bum? Dan Campbell said he wanted to dribble it or something. And then Goff says, no, he wanted me to fumble on purpose and pick it up and throw a touchdown. And Goff's like, I don't know about that. I think that just goes to show you that Ben Johnson never played pro football. You don't want to stumble it on. You don't want to fumble on purpose. The ball is not round. And that brings up a question we're going to talk about on this show. Is Ben Johnson, if you're a GM, do you want a guy like this a leader of men, somebody who you can fire up to run through a wall for you when injuries are hurting you and you don't have your quarterback. Can you still get men to perform and win a game for you? If you're a GM, do you have, how much confidence do you have that Ben Johnson's that guy? We're going to talk about that in this show. Well, I don't know about this, Chad, but I'm glad that you put it in. He says, kudos to the Lions fan from Texas that got sideline tickets and saved a guy that had a heart attack during the game. Interesting. A Lions fan. Steve, he's a regular Packer fan. So I don't care what Detroit team come. Me and my Packers are ready for them and anyone. As well you should be, Steve. Packers are no joke. And by the way, if you could win next week, that'd be great. Yeah. If you could beat the Vikings next week, that would be awesome. You should do that for us. We wanted you to lose to Seattle, but you wouldn't. That's okay. Lose to the Vikings. Beat the Vikings next week, Packers. All us Lions fans are rooting for you. Now, we're not going to give you a go, Pack, go or anything like that, but we will definitely be silently going, yes. Yeah. Because the Lions do have a path to the number 1 seed, and it's very clear. And the easiest path is if you guys will just beat them next week. I got to give kudos to the Vikings. I did it last week, and I believe the week before that. These guys just keep coming, and they keep winning. I mean, the Lions, we win. Vikings won too. Guess what? They got 2 losses as well. This is the most disrespected 2-loss team I've ever seen. And it is going to come down to that week 18. We just know it is, right? We're going to look at that scenario here in a little bit. Detroit Jesus in the house. Put that one back up there, producer. Melvin says the Packers are so ready for us. We beat them twice. That's how ready they are for us. Man, it would have been great if they would have came to Ford Field for the title game, but they couldn't get past the Niners. Just worry about the Vikings this week. Frank in the house. What's up, Frank? Season's greetings, my friend. Jordan, Donkey, Chad, Melvin, Roger in the house. Roger says, I'm selling 4 Detroit Lions, and he's a douchebag. Oh, see, I got to start reading these before I put them up, I guess. Henry Gray says, we need a meme of Ben Johnson in a lab coat looking like a mad scientist. We already did the Mega Mind. Elise already did the Mega Mind Ben Johnson. But the mad scientist, I like it. Lisa's kind of young, so she might not know. Thomas Dolby. She blinded me with science, Elise. Look that up. Yes, sir. Jameson Williams, 143 yards career. That bomb over the top was gorgeous. You know that's exactly how Brad Holmes envisioned it, just like that when he drafted him, and he caught a lot of heat then and since for drafting him 12th overall. But when he gets behind the defense, no one's catching him. And just as we saw yesterday, that's exactly what Brad Holmes had in mind, I'm sure. Is he a legit wide receiver too? You bet your ass he is. Can the Lions afford to pay him as a legit wide receiver too? Let's not talk about that right now. We're in the middle of a magical season. Let's not even talk about re-signing J-Mo and his 5th-year option. That'll give us plenty to talk about in the offseason when we see how he finishes. He is knocking on the door of 1,000 yards, folks. He only needed, 84 yards a game down the stretch, and he just helped himself with 143 yards. J-Mo to 1,000, Amon-Ra to 1,000. Doesn't look like Montgomery's going to get that 1,000. We were going to be the first team in history to get 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs, each with 1,000 yards. Bummer. Maybe next year. Who cares about records? There's always that guy. Where's that guy in the chat? Who cares about records? We won 13 games. Right. Ben Johnson, it's been speculated that Ben Johnson was auditioning for the Chicago job yesterday. Well, did I get the gig, coach? Yeah. I mean, I personally don't see it, but there are some reports out there. Back in October, Sports Illustrated actually reported that Ben himself was interested in the Chicago job, but Chicago decided to retain Matt Eberflus rather than give Ben an interview. But Ben was interested in that job. Now, being interested in a job and interviewing for a job, that's not the same as taking the job, right? But Courtney Cronin said yesterday from ESPN, she's an ESPN analyst, and I quote, says that Ben Johnson is likely to interview for the Chicago job. Sources confirmed to ESPN, unquote. Doesn't mean he's going to take it. Let's analyze this for a minute. If you're Ben Johnson, what jobs are going to be available and are going to be offered to you? I mean, if I'm him, I'm gonna entertain every offer. I'm gonna interview with everyone. Oh, and somebody's gonna say either you take the job now or we're done. Walk away from that one, Ben. Keep yourself flexible. Take the right job. You know he will. This guy's meticulous. The New Orleans job, the Jets job. There will probably be some openings, many openings between now and then. Dallas, Las Vegas. I think all of those jobs, to me, seem more appealing than Chicago. There it is. The mega mind, Ben Johnson. Elise Memes. It's awesome. Do you want the Chicago job? Look at the defense the Jets have. I get it. They don't have a quarterback. We all know Karen's gone. In Vegas, they don't have a quarterback. And I would venture New Orleans does not have a quarterback. Except that bum Derek Carr. If Ben comes there, if I were Ben, I'd say, yeah, you get rid of Carr and maybe I'll take the job. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill. There's some pieces there. Have you ever been to New Orleans? It's fabulous. It's awesome. Love it there. Funnest town ever. Maybe Ben would take that job. I would rather that over Chicago. Have you ever been to Chicago? The traffic is hell. It's hell. It's the most underrated hell in the world. Second only to their airport, which is crappy and hell. Second only to their stadium, which is the equivalent of a parking lot. They are going to build a new stadium, and the plans look pretty awesome. And Caleb Williams, I believe, is a viable quarterback of your future. I believe he's got the skill set to do it. Whether he can keep it between the ears, we'll see. Melvin says, if I was Ben, I stay away from Chicago with Kevin Warren trying to big man everything. It's a clusterfuck. Good call. Ryan Poles, this is the main reason, Melvin. I'm so glad you brought that up. The main reason I don't see Ben going there is because Ryan Poles, everything is hinging on this coach hire. He's already changed offensive coordinators. Then the coach is fired. Now the interim coach, they're sliding. It's terrible. He's got all this talent that's not doing anything. If this hire doesn't go right, he's done. And I've got to admit, Ryan Poles done a pretty good job, in my opinion, my amateur opinion. I think Ryan Poles has done a pretty good job assembling talent. He overpaid for 2 linebackers. But give and take, in the grand scheme, I thought he's done pretty well of putting this together. Now, he did not hire Matt Eberflus. So the new coach that he brings in is going to be his guy, and his fate is going to rest with that coach. Therefore, I do not think he is going to hire a first-time head coach. He is going to try to hire an established name. Bill Cowher out of retirement. Something like that. I'm just throwing that out as an example. A name. John Gruden back from homophobic exile. I'm just saying, it's going to be something like that because more growing. Looks like we got some people giving us some comments here. Henry says, I think Ben Johnson was showing Chicago he's smarter than their entire organization. Right. And Ben's going to get a bag. You know, he's going to get a bag. It was already rumored last week that $15 million was his asking price. And those guys over there in Washington, they were going to pay it. But if I'm Washington, I think I'm pretty happy with Dan Quinn. That would have been a great hire for the Bears. Dwayne in the house. What's up, Dwayne Keene? He's a supervillain. Says we need to pay Ben Johnson the big bag. Right, but what is a coordinator's bag? That's the cool thing. Is not cool. That's the thing. We don't know what they make. The teams do not disclose what they pay their coordinators. There's only rumor unless the coach himself confirms it, which they rarely do. So we don't even know what he gets paid or why he chose to stay. They could, Sheila Ford Hamp could have walked in there and just dropped the bag on the table last year. Said, give me one more year. And she might do it again. He's a Carolina native, Ben Johnson. But Dave Canales has that job locked up for the next couple years, I would think, with the performance they're having now. Just beating Arizona yesterday, rattling off a couple wins in a row, got Bryce Young playing better. He was brought there as a first-time head coach because he had a reputation as a quarterback whisperer, and he was going to fix Bryce Young. And halfway through the season, it looked like it was going to fail. But now it looks like it's picking up. He definitely solidified himself to keep his job for next year. So that's not an option for Ben. So if Ben, like most people, want to go home, someday, if that's his dream job is to be right there by mom in Carolina and coach, he's going to have to wait a couple years. Well, you could wait right here in Motown, Ben, because our coach isn't going anywhere. Dwayne always gets me fired up. Let's go, Detroit Lions. Number one pride. Kings of the North Division champion title, all grit, never back down. 13-2. Yes, Dwayne. It's a great time to be a Lions fan. This is a historic chapter in Lions history. 13 wins for the first time ever. Ever. The Lions have won 13 games this year. Said no one ever. It's a truly, truly wonderful thing. And then with all the injuries, it gives you that pit in your stomach, and then they go out and they win. Win a game that they were only favored by 6.5, not a full touchdown favorite in that game, and they win by 17. So they did what good teams are supposed to do. You beat the bad teams soundly, and they did. And they did. The defense, however, was questionable. Even though we won, even though we limited them to 17 points, and you heard Dan Campbell at the beginning of the show talking about Terrion Arnold giving up a touchdown, but that's Keenan Allen. He's beaten every corner in this league for a touchdown. Okay? And it was a perfect pass by Caleb Williams. Right on the money. But look at the difference between Caleb Williams and Josh Allen the week before. The similarities are they both had a lot of time, folks. I mean, what did we get? We got 2 sacks, 21 pressures, and 16 hurries. It's not atrocious. We're the number 18 ranked defense, and that's the kind of numbers a number 18 defense puts up. That's not going to cut it in the playoffs. That needs to be better. I think our secondary has been doing a stellar job when you consider how long Caleb Williams and Josh Allen had back there in the pocket. You can't expect those guys on the back end to cover that long. Okay? I mean, these guys had a lot of time. They barely hit Caleb Williams. They put a lick on Josh Allen a few times, but Josh Allen's was outside the pocket looking calm and slick and taking the hit to get the ball right where he wanted it. Caleb Williams rushed the throw a few times yesterday. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. He rushed that throw to avoid the hit. Sailed it over their head out of bounds. Skipped it on the ground in front of them. And then Bear fans are talking about how, oh, he hasn't had an interception in over 400 attempts. Well, yeah, nobody's getting an interception when the ball's 5 feet over everyone's head. His completion percentage is not that great. It's better than all the other rookies this year, though. He's definitely got the skill set. He's not a flop. Whether you guys will ruin him, that remains to be seen. But he's got the skill set. Keeps his eyes downfield, slippery in the pocket, got a rocket for an arm. His ball has a nice spiral to it. Ben Johnson said you could hear it whistle by your ear. So maybe there's a little there that would attract Ben Johnson. I personally don't see it. If I had to bet, I would say he does not take the Chicago job based on simply Ryan Poles isn't going to stake his future on a first-time head coach. That's my opinion. Sure, he's going to interview him because all the Bears fans are going to scream, why didn't we get Ben Johnson? If you don't at least make it look like you're trying. Maurice in the house says, Ben's making big bucks with the Lions. I believe that, Maurice. I really do. We don't know what he's making. He could be the highest paid coordinator in the league right now. Sheila's not stingy. She wants a winner, and that's the first time that this is the major difference, I think, with this regime than all the previous ones. Sheila grew up with the Lions stinking. There was no glory days for her to look back on. She simply is not old enough to remember the Lions when they were winning championships. She's barely old enough to remember 1970 and the Silver Rush with Alex Karras and Bubba Baker and them guys. So she wants to win. That's the biggest difference. And don't forget about Chris Spielman, the secret weapon. The defense did not show up that great yesterday, folks. I hate to tell you. It was the Bears. The secondary allowed 15.5 yards per catch. They were getting torched. Keenan Allen, 9 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Just like every other wide receiver one that this year that the Lions have faced. They go over their prop on their yards. Maybe not the touchdown because we've been stingy in the red zone. But you look all the way from the first game, Cooper Kupp, 161 yards or something. Every week, the wide receiver one for the other team goes over their prop for yards. We give up a lot of yards between the 20s. I thought Caleb Williams should have run more. I thought there were plenty of times he had yesterday that he could have ran and saved a drive, but he didn't. These things are going to come to him like they do to Josh Allen now. Josh Allen had the same kind of time, and he would float out of the pocket and head towards the sideline. And if he didn't have someone to throw to, there was no second guessing. He was gone. First down. Caleb Williams is going to get there, folks. And when he does, the Bears could be dangerous. Sheila is 73 years old. There you go, Dwayne. So do the math. She was born when the Lions won their last championship. Then she was, 4 years old? That's what I'm saying. She doesn't remember that. She don't remember winning. She wants to win, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's a great day to be a Lions fan. You're watching the Main Event Football Show on the Villain Squad Network. Be sure to subscribe to the page. It's Villain Squad on Facebook, Lions Villain Squad. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel. By the way, follow me on social media, would you? At Main Event Mike. There it is right there on all social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. Help me help you, folks, like Jerry Maguire. Brent says the Bears have a few of the best wide receivers out there. DJ Moore could play on my team any day. I think Rome Odunze is a very promising rookie. I mean, you look at Rome Odunze 2-3 years from now, he's going to be really solid. He's already got a nose for the ball that is looking good. DJ Moore's not that old. Keenan Allen, he's long in the tooth. injury pro. I doubt he's even back next year. Keenan Allen. It was a 1-year thing. But they have some good players over there. Very tough to see Braxton Jones go down for the Bears yesterday. Prayers go out to him. Don't forget, tomorrow is PFF Tuesday, 10 a.m. right here in the morning. It's the Villain Report, Lions Villain Report with my compadre, Russell Wayne. And we are going to bring Russell Wayne in now as we look ahead to the Detroit versus San Francisco game on Monday Night Football next week. Please welcome to the show the maestro, Russell Wayne.
What's going on, Mike? Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
I got the background that says that. Got some of these presents all wrapped up with my guitars, doing
Right
that
on.
thing right there. Yeah, I have it in there good.
So-
I didn't know what you wanted to talk about.
Well, let's talk about all these topics that you've been listening to me rattle off about. J-Mo being an every down back, or Jahmyr Gibbs being an every down back. J-Mo, is he a wide receiver too solid? Has he solidified himself? Will 1,000 yards cement him as a bona fide wide receiver too? And should the Lions pay him? Oh, I don't want to talk about that. And Christian Mahogany in his first NFL start allowed 2 pressures on Caleb Williams, but overall he had a great PFF grade. Let's start there. Let's talk about Christian Mahogany in his first start as a Detroit Lion. What did you see there, and what are the PFF grades telling us?
Well, the PFF grades, I mean, we went over that this morning, just that one, which, by the way, tomorrow morning we'll go over all of the other nerdy stuff at 10 a.m. on the Villain Report. But Christian Mahogany played well. I mean, what are you going to say? He came right in. Now, Dan Campbell did say that, there's nothing wrong with Coyote. They want to see what they have going into the playoffs with Christian Mahogany. It wasn't like he necessarily beat him out, but he played well in that spot, and he's the young guy. I mean, they drafted him in the 6th round, and he wasn't a hole. Actually, he looked like a plus player at times when he was out there. So it wasn't perfect, but some of the stuff, he looked pretty dominant in the run game, out there with Frank the Tank running out in space. So I don't know. I think that I think they found somebody else. 6th round gem, Brad Holmes, doing it again.
If he's just a serviceable backup in the 6th round at guard, I mean, you can never have enough offensive linemen. And in his first start, and I love your call out there is, he's been dressed the last couple of weeks. He's been on the sideline and dressed. But it's like the game is too important to let him go in. But this Bears game, I think they had some feeling there that they were a lot better than the Bears, and they could win this game. And it was a good opportunity to give him some reps because they may need to lean on him when the postseason comes, don't you think?
Right. Well, I mean, and he's the heir apparent. So when you bring a guy and you sign a guy like Graham Glasgow for 3-year deal, he wasn't he's on the other side of 30 now. So you're trying to get that fluid draft thing happening, and if they found somebody in him that could be the starter, maybe not next year, but maybe the year after that, and then you got a guy for 2 years on his rookie deal, this is the game that we want to be playing.
That's right. And Brad's been a master of that. Contract expires, a new one gets signed, and moving him in and out as one guy leaves, another guy is drafted to replace him. Perfect GM skills on display for the last 3 years for sure. Now, what do you think about this defense? Do you think there's still concern here? I mean, they did give up 15.5 yards per catch, and they are the number 18 rated defense. Is that going to be enough? Is that going to be good enough?
I mean, I don't put too much stock into what they did on offense. So because when you go out and you're up 20-0, I'm not attacking you in the same way. And honestly, I'll chalk most of that up, especially the second half, to garbage yards. The reason that he plays so well is because teams shut him down. He scored 1 touchdown in like 5 games in the first half. So what happens is teams get out to a big lead against him, and then he has to come back. These teams, we're not playing the super hard, aggressive coverage. You know, we're trying to do the, you know, we don't do prevent. I don't think that we go that far into it, but we're definitely not playing as hard of a defense. So I'm not worried about that part of it at all. I'm glad that we got some guys that got some reps out there, and gosh, they got a turnover. I mean, that's what you want to see. Guys going after the ball. We're going to outscore people. And if we get a turnover on somebody, it's going to be really, really hard for people to beat us.
A good friend, an old friend of the show, Ifatu Melifonwu, made his season debut last week against the Bears. He had 4 tackles and a sack. He had 3 pressures. He played 50 of 63 snaps. So they were putting Iffy out there. It wasn't like a snap count thing where they were limiting him, easing him back in. This defense is hurting so bad. He played 50 out of 63 snaps. It's a little uncharacteristic for this team and these coaches to give a guy that many snaps when he returns from injury. They have historically worked them in slowly. But Ifeatu Melifonwu definitely, we were missing that. That the very first play of the game, he came off the edge and almost got a sack. It was great to see him out there. However, he did give up a touchdown over the top, and it didn't look like he tried real hard. I went back and watched the replay after I said it today on your show to confirm my own eyeballs, and absolutely, he could have stopped that guy at the 1 yard line, but instead he let him go in. And from my angle, anyway, I don't know. The effort just seemed to be lacking on that particular play. That's just something that caught my eye. But it was good to see Iffy out there, right, Russ?
Absolutely. I mean, I saw some good, a little bit. I saw him play some good snaps out there, and it wasn't all perfect. I mean, I was looking at the same thing with Amik Robertson too. I mean, there were times he was getting tackles for losses. He was being, crafty out there, getting scrappy. He gave up a couple plays too. So it's just, it's kind of, these guys bounce back and they don't let it get into their head. When they have a bad play, they can get into the next play and see what can happen there.
Amik Robertson, he's really tough against the run, but he had a couple of isolation tackles in that game yesterday that were real nice, stopping the ball carrier. But he does get beat. He's a little bit liability getting beat. He's just not big enough to hang with some of these big receivers. So you've got to you got to play it smart.
Well,
Lions doing what it takes to win.
Let's be honest here, though. Let's talk about 2 different things that for one, they had to go for some 4th downs to move the ball, like very uncharacteristic 4th down and 6 on their side of the field, 4th down and 7 from their side. And to move the ball down the field, they had to get a lot of that. This defense took them to 4th down, 3rd down, and they make it hard. They make you go the hard way. They did get beat on a couple of those plays. Like you said, Keenan Allen, he just, Keenan Allen. I remember going against him on my fantasy football team year after year after year. It just sucks. I hate you, Keenan Allen. I just don't like you. But he's so good. And he did beat us, but giving up 17 points, winning going away. I'm not going to beat him up for a bunch of stuff that happened. Yeah, especially in the second half.
Right.
When you're up by that many, you're just, God, let's get out of here.
Well, there is a game tonight. There is a game tonight, and that is the New Orleans Saints at the Green Bay Packers, minus 14 points. Russ and I are going to pick that game, and then we're going to look ahead to the San Francisco game next week on Monday night with the Lions. But right now, let's take a look. New Orleans at Green Bay. Put it in the chat. Tell us what you think. Remember, if you say Green Bay or you say New Orleans in the chat, you're talking about 14-point spread here. Green Bay has to win by more than 14 points for you to win this. Green Bay is at home, and the Saints have fired their head coach, and they are playing hard for special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi, who's the interim coach. This is a tough one to pick. I mean, obviously, I think Green Bay is going to win the game, but will they win by more than 14? I say yes. I say the Packers cover. That's what I'm taking, Russ. What do you got?
Guy, I wanted to do the same thing, but I'll pick against you. I mean, that is a lot of points, and they can still blow them out and not cover that. So I'll take the Saints and the points.
right? And it's not a bad call, Russ, when you take a look at the lines last week and the week before and the week before that, and you start to see what's happening here. More and more teams, like 80% of the teams covered the spread this week. As the season gets longer, right, and guys start to wear down, other guys are coming in for the first time. There are different dynamics at play. And some of these teams, we saw Carolina upset Arizona yesterday. We saw Seattle and Minnesota hit right on the spread at 3. There were so many games that it was within a half a point of the spread. It happens. So I think your call of taking the points, 14. Russ takes New Orleans, and he's getting 14 points. And I'm taking Green Bay. Put it in the chat. I want to hear what you got to say. Henry Gray says Green Bay by 21. Davey thinks New Orleans. And Jay-Z says the equanimous St. Brown revenge game. Said no one ever.
That's great. I like that.
He did play for the Packers, didn't he? That's right. I know he played for the Bears too, but I forgot he played for the Packers. Absolutely. Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother going into Lambeau tomorrow. So there's our picks. But let's look ahead now. This is a weekly show. I won't see you guys again until next Monday, which will be New Year's Eve. And that hopefully will also be a victory Monday as the Lions travel to Levi Stadium in San Francisco on the 30th, Monday night, 8:25 Eastern kickoff. Detroit at San Francisco, the Niners at home getting 3.5. So there you go. Your Detroit Lions are favored by 3.5 against the defending NFC champions in their building. What? That's right, because the Niners have been eliminated from the playoffs. They are the only team that has any gripe to even complain about the situation with injuries compared to the Lions. They have been decimated by injuries as well, but their injuries are on the other side of the ball. Their offense has been crippled by injuries, losing the first 3 running backs in the rotation. Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerrero, not to mention Elijah Mitchell was traded off at the beginning of the year. They lost him. Now they're down to Patrick Taylor. Trent Williams, their all-world left tackle. He's out for the game. We have a lot of questionable statuses from them as well. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa, questionable for the game. So they are beat up too. And they just lost to the Miami Dolphins. So they're eliminated from the playoffs. You got to wonder how hard they're going to be playing. Dan Campbell made it real clear. His team's going all out. You know some of those players are going to be seeing ghosts walking into that stadium after last year's title game in the second half collapse of the Lions. Horrible, epic collapse of the Lions in the second half last year. But this is Jared Goff's revenge game because Jared Goff said around week 5 or 6 of this season, he was interviewed by Detroit radio and says, how's it feel to be the hunted now instead of the hunter? And he said, well, hey, we got a few people on our list that we're gunning for too. We've got a revenge list too. And he has so far avenged every loss from last year except the Baltimore Ravens, who we don't play, and the San Francisco 49ers. And that game is now here. We beat Seattle. We beat Dallas. We swept Green Bay. We swept Chicago. And then when you throw in San Francisco and Baltimore, those are the only teams that beat us last year. We've beaten them all now. We can beat San Francisco on Monday night and then maybe beat Baltimore in the Super Bowl. And Jared Goff will have run the table on his revenge list. But the Lions, a 3.5-point favorite. We're not going to pick this game tonight. We're going to pick this game next week or on Thursday, right, Russ? We pick the games on Thursday. Actually, we'll pick this game next week on this show. Just before. I got confused. Sorry. Thanks to everybody that put something in the chat. Thanks to everyone that's watching this on the recorded group. We appreciate all of you. We're all Green Bay fans next week. Here's a cool thing. The Green Bay game will end before the Lions kick off for Monday Night Football, of course, on Sunday. The Green Bay game. So the Lions will know when they wake up on Monday morning whether or not they are playing for the number 1 seed or not. Green Bay playing against the Vikings. If the Vikings can beat Green Bay, it's all going to come down to Week 18 in Ford Field with the Vikings and the Lions, if the Lions can get past the Niners. Here's the scenario. If the Lions win and the Vikings lose, the Lions can clinch the number 1 seed against the Niners. You hearing that, folks? If you Green Bay Packer fans, Steve, you hearing me? If your team can beat the Vikings, we will enter the game knowing that we will clinch the number 1 if we beat San Francisco. That's huge, folks. If the Lions win and the Vikings win, then it all comes down to Week 18 in Ford Field for all the marbles. Not only the number 1 seed, but the division title and the number 1 seed. In fact, the loser of that game, if it does play out that way, will drop all the way to the 5th seed. And Philadelphia, they still have a path to the number 1 seed. If the Lions and the Vikings lose, and then the Vikings beat the Lions on Week 18, the Eagles will be the number 1 seed. Don't let that happen, folks. Vikings, don't let that happen. I'd rather the Vikings get the number 1 seed than the Eagles, honestly. People in Minneapolis are just nicer. I've been in both places. I can say that. You've been watching the Main Event Football Show. Thanks, everyone, for watching. For Russell Wayne and myself, we will see you next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be a year older at that time. And I hope you all have a Merry, Merry Christmas. Thank you for your support. God bless each and every one of you. Peace out. Cue the music. Hit the music.
Oh, gosh, I wasn't ready for you to do that.
The Ravishing Rick Rude. Hit the music. Like I know. See, I know things.